Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a part 2 of preamps. Just sitting in the room today, pretty dark in here today, just listening to some relaxing music. We did a live session on YouTube earlier. Listening to some copyright free music in the background right now. Something pretty relaxing. I'll turn that down. Let's flip this over. Let's get into this conversation. The last video that I posted was pretty much like an introduction or a talking point about preamps and my journey, my personal journey, trying to figure out what I want to get next. On this channel, there are probably 500 and some odd videos. Now, I don't do a lot of editing. I don't do as much linking to videos as I probably should do. For an audience, to serve an audience, there are certain things on my channel and my practice that I could probably do better. Granted, as one of the previous viewers pointed out, that my previous video about preamps was excruciating to watch. Now, for whatever that reason is, I don't know that telling me that makes any difference. In some of that advice, although the expression made me laugh, I understand that it's not for everyone, but nothing is. Now, there are type of music, type of preamp, type of gear, type of speakers. Everything is to taste, and we're not going to like everything. And if I spent as much energy as it needed to go around and tell everybody what I didn't like, rather than focusing on something that was useful, I would be exhausted constantly. So we're going to gloss over that and say, yeah, there are some things I could probably improve on. And yeah, I don't know everything either. I'm learning about preamps as a part of my journey, and I'm sharing part of my journey with my audience. And maybe some people can relate to that, but maybe others think that they're, the bee's knees, and they know everything and they get to criticize other people for not knowing certain things. Well, kudos to them. I guess you have a freedom to do whatever you wish, but I choose not to do that. So anyways, let me talk about the preamp that I have and what might be happening to it. Now, what we've had in the room is the Rotel 1590 Mark II, which a lot of people know and have commented on, that they like Rotel and their quality, what they've done in what Rotel has done for them and what it sounds like. This actually showed up on a number of different YouTube videos when I was searching for preamps, and this preamp and the Michi series preamp came up in the same conversation for having fairly good sound. Now, it makes me wonder, because this one and the specs that I've been looking at that I now value are specs that are related to the voltage output and voltage inputs for the, connections, balanced RCA out, that kind of thing. So the voltage output corresponds to what I would consider a gain level, and what I'm now learning about preamps and their job to manage not only source selection and volume in a linear way. So when I'm turning down the volume and turning up the volume, what the amplifier sees is a fairly consistent signal. Otherwise, what you get are different swings in volume changes. This is all coming from people that I've listened to, Paul McGowan, PS Audio, and a couple of engineers have shared their thoughts on what it is to have a good and working preamp in your audio system. What I've now learned and what I'm looking for in my preamp is not only a matter of features and inputs, like digital inputs. Does it have a DAC built in? Does it have a streamer built in? The balanced and XLR, is it fully discrete balanced? That kind of thing. Now, what I've come to understand is the voltage level output, the clean sort of sound and voltage level equals a higher gain to the amplifier. So when it reaches the amplifier, in my case, this is a Purify module that has a low, medium, and high setting for different voltages, and that creates a different sound. But if you raise certain voltage levels and the source material or the preamp signal chain has some noise in it, depending on its voltage levels, then that will eventually show up in the speakers and in the sound itself. Now, my speakers, these Arundel Towers, are 92 dB sensitive with a waveguide. So they're quite sensitive, and that means that any kind of quiet sound in the music, in the signal, I can hear coming through this tweeter. It's a soft dome tweeter, but 92 dB with two 8-inch woofers that do mid-range as well. I'm hearing a lot of details in the signal chain, and this is the reason why I started thinking about my preamp. This is the first of the separates that I've had. Before this, I had receivers, I had integrated amps, something from Sherwood many years ago. And this one, paired with my power amps, is the first experience in mix matching systems and components. I'm learning a lot, and I don't know everything there is to know, but I'm trying to, get information about how all this stuff works from some of the best in the industry, as well as some of my informed friends, which I was talking about last week. So this week, I'm basically just saying where I am in my journey and where I think I'm headed to in the next little while. Now, I don't have a complete idea of what I'm doing next, but what I would like to do is get another separate preamp. This time, perhaps not get one that has the DAC built in, and I can use an external DAC, which may change over time, and I may be able to test and upgrade and things like that. I mean, of course, this isn't quite an end game system yet. This is just what I can afford in my space. I am renting an apartment right now, so this room is essentially just what I can afford up to this point, and the things that I've been able to acquire have taught me things along the way. So the voltage level output is something that I'm concerned with. This one, from what I can tell, it looks like it's 2 volts to XLR, which sounds very, very low. It has THD characteristics, 0.002, I believe, 0.001. So it's very low. The crosstalk is below 80 decibels. So some of these features or some of these specs are now teaching me about what to look for in the next one. What I'm aiming at now is a preamp that has much higher voltage output, somewhere above 8 volts, maybe even more than that. I've been looking at some of the expensive specs, or expensive unit specs versus lesser expensive specs, and comparing them for what do the expensive preamps do that the cheaper ones don't do. What is it that, say, Topping, Fosse Audio, amplifiers in that range, SVS, Emotiva, some are in their lower ranges, what do they do that some of these mid-tier, or even Michi, Past Labs, Griffin Audio, Vinny Rossi, what do some of these other preamps that have 20 volts of output, what are they doing different? Is it a stability in the power supply? Is it something to do with the volume control, the analog processing, the signal separation, channel separation? I mean, all of these are going to play a factor in the sound, but this is part of the journey now that I'm learning from the specifications, from more of these friends and peers that have information, as well as in the comments. I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of comments on this one as well, be it that this video didn't need to be 9.5 minutes long. It probably could have been 3, and I would have saved somebody time. But here we are, and yes, I'm using my talking hand again. A lot of people don't like that my face isn't on camera. So what? I do things differently around here, and that's the way I like it. Well, that means I need to get another drink, because that's empty. So it is what it is, and I'm fairly certain I know what I'm going to get, but that may yet to change. I have an event coming up in a couple of weeks. EQ Audio here in Toronto, Ontario, north of Toronto, Ontario, actually. They're doing a special event in a couple of weeks for AGD, which is Audio Group Denmark. And Audio Group Denmark has the AVIC electronics line as well as Access line. Now, Access only does integrated amps, but the AVIC line has a bunch of preamps and power amps as well as DACs, streamers, and a bunch of other electronics. And I think that will give me a very excellent time to compare some of the units in an environment where I can listen to which ones do which. This being part 2 of my preamp sort of journey, I will make a part 3, and I have an idea to bring in some opinions from friends of mine and from peers that have, you know, years of experience with preamps and what their suggestions are. So if you would like to see more about the preamps, if you'd like to see what some of my friends and peers, dealers, reps, brand owners, perhaps, it depends on who responds to my request. If you'd like to see more about their opinions from experts, from people who design this stuff, instead of from me, because what do I know? I'm just a guy with a camera. If you would like to hear more from designers and reps and people that represent brands and have been in the industry for longer than I've been alive, then let me know in the comments. Would that be more helpful than watching this? Was this of any help at all? Does it help any bit of the journey? Does anybody familiar with all of the specs from preamps? Or for you, is it all about the sound and you just plug one in and find out what it sounds like? I mean, for me, it's both. I like the idea of specs corresponding together and how one thing relates to another. So we use measurements to define reality, like we use math and physics to define what we have now in the world. They're correlated in a way, not completely, but they are. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to try to bring in some people that can share some insights. And then in a few weeks, I'll have a chance to demo some at the store. So stick around for that. Thank you for being here on the channel and supporting me in any way possible. Comments are usually the best ones, but liking and subscribing is okay. I don't think they function as well as views and comments do, but one or the other is great. So from me in my rather sweaty hot box room, I'm going to go get something cold to drink, maybe take a shower. 30 plus degrees here in Toronto is absolutely gross. I'll see you in the next video, but for now I'm out of here, and thank you very much for following along my journey to find myself a new preamp, DAC, maybe a streamer. So if you have suggestions, comments, that's where you leave it. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and supporting. Take it easy.